For many people, the COVID-19 pandemic has passed and is not given much thought or news coverage. Yet there's a growing number of people who have reported symptoms that have never left them. Many of them have had these symptoms for years. The Office of National Statistics estimates that over 2 million Britons have long COVID. You may have it, or you may know someone who is struggling with it. My name is Paul, and I've been debilitated by long COVID since January 22. In this podcast, I'm going to share my journey and things I've experienced along the way. My aim is not to give medical advice. I'm certainly not qualified to do that. But I've been gaslit, ridiculed and dismissed for my symptoms, and I know it can be a very lonely place to be. It's an invisible illness, and I just want people to know that they're not alone. Welcome back to Life with Long COVID, and my name is Paul Clark. I'm the host of this podcast, and I'm joined by my other half in every respect, Rachel Clark, this week.
Hello.
Rachel, it's good that you can join us because it is half term, isn't it?
Yeah, and because I work in schools, I am technically still working, but I don't have to be in the office, as it were.
So a reminder to those listening, if this is your first episode, thanks for finding us. And you can go back on previous episodes. They are all marked clearly, and you'll be able to delve into various different subjects. But today's subject, we're going to talk about something that has been prompted by a piece of technology I've been wearing. And I just want to say that we are not sponsored in any way by any of the products that we talk about. So therefore we can talk about them really honestly. And but this is something I've tried before, which is the Visible Armband. Now the Visible Armband is, if you've got chronic illness and you go online on social media, you will find adverts for Visible everywhere. They're prolific in advertising. And basically what it is a wearable, it's an armband, a sensor that you wear, and it measures your heart rate variability. And I've no idea what that means, but basically it allows it to give you something called pace points and help you with pacing and finding your baseline. And the idea is if you're within your pace points, which is individual to every single person, then you are pacing yourself right and you won't experience what's called post-exertional malaise. And that's the idea. And I've tried it before and I didn't like it before. It didn't work for me. But I just had this sense recently that I'm in a different place now to where I was last year when I tried this, or the year before, I can't remember. So I decided to take the plunge, upgrade to the version 2 of the band, which is 0.20 or 2.0.
No, that's what I meant,
better.
Yeah.
And sorry, listeners are well known for my weird, foggy-brained expressions. And this version lasts battery for 5 days rather than 1 day, which means you can sleep with it on. And apparently they're going to bring out some sleeping metrics as well soon. But it also means you don't have to tediously charge it.
Yeah.
Which somebody with a foggy brain and low energy was a hard.
I was going to say that just adds to your mental load.
It's just adds to your stress every day.
Yeah, of course.
So I put this on 3 days ago and it's still going.
Brilliant.
And it's not even down to 50% yet. And but what I want to talk about today, Rach, which I appreciate you joining me today, is to talk about not just pacing, but how I found how I've tried to approach pacing even without Visible.
Okay.
So there's 2 things: is how you pace your life, and the second thing is the kind of things that Visible was showing up as using pace points, which I didn't expect.
Okay, what are they?
We could start there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I found. I used to think it was just physical exertion that it measured, that raised your heart rate and therefore changed your heart rate variability. But what I found is even when passively sitting, your heart gets going and causes some stress upon your body sometimes. and that uses pace points without me actually moving.
Yeah.
So, for example, I was sitting on the sofa watching football of my own team, and it was a bit of a tight, controversial game, and I used about 3 pace points.
Wow.
Just watching football.
And as you know, as listeners of the podcast know, you love football.
Love football. Yeah. Yesterday we went out to visit relations, which is a lot of emotional stuff going on. We hadn't seen them for some time, and there's physical side to that as well. And I was well within my pace points. I hardly used anything at all. So it's weird about how my body reacts to different scenarios.
Well, that is really interesting as a therapist as well, because you're the physical, emotions and your body are related. When you feel emotions, obviously you feel it in your body, but this visible thing can't track that emotional energy.
No.
So that's one thing to think about, isn't it? That even though it takes on your physical energy and sort of because obviously your heart beats faster when your team is just about to score or whatever.
Yeah, or lose badly. And that causes me pace points. So.
Yeah, but your emotional energy and other things, I guess, like your mental load, it won't track as well.
But I guess like your emotional energy can cause stress levels.
I guess it depends what it is, because if you're stressed, your heart's going to be faster. If you're anxious, your heart's going to be fast. But if you feel depressed, it's actually going to go slower.
Yeah. And the fact is, yesterday, I was more active than I was the day before, but still within my pace point. So it's kind of thrown out the window what I thought pacing was about.
Yeah.
It is about physical things. So I did a bit of housework this morning, and I used up 5 pace points there. And I haven't everyone's allocation is different. Mine's 30 at the moment because I'm still within the settling in phase. But that means I've used 5 of those 30 just cleaning, tidying up, which is scary, really. Throwing a football match and I'll be well over. You know what I mean? So it's thrown up, and it also it's half term here in the UK, in this part of the UK, because it's different all over the UK. But means our teenage children at home, and that also for me it throws out everything because of the routine.
Yeah.
So I found that having a routine is crucial when you've got chronic fatigue, because you have to know where you're going to spend the energy in that day.
Yeah. And
you also have to have a little bit in reserve in the tank just in case something untoward happens. And so I've unknowingly, like unconsciously, I didn't do this consciously, but have a structure to my week and my days, which means I know exactly what I'm going to be doing when I'm going to be doing. And that sounds boring, but it's crucial for me, because I've gone past the phase which you listening you may be in still. So my heart goes out to you of a complete free-fall carnage where every day you're exhausted because you're doing different things every day. I'm waffling, aren't I? But I know it. You know what I'm talking about. So this routine thing's really important, and I think Visible's helpful now because I've got that routine. Yeah,
well, it was more erratic, wasn't it? Before you were still in the bereavement stage, really, of your illness. You were like, oh, I could get better. Oh, I feel better today. I'm going to do loads of things today.
Yeah.
Whereas now, if you're having a good day, you don't go, hey, let's go across the channel or something.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Go crazy. And that is in your nature, isn't it, to be quite spontaneous?
It used to be.
Yeah, so we the day before half term in the past, we may have booked a holiday, like a last minute holiday. Lots of people do. It's cheaper, get last minute deals. There's nothing wrong with that, is there? But we can't do that now, and that's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just a thing that we need to now realise that's never going to happen.
I just wouldn't handle it.
No.
I mean, I say I couldn't handle it. I might be able to handle it at the time, but the post-exertional stuff afterwards would wipe me out, and I'm not willing to spend it in that way.
No.
It's kind of like, I was thinking today, it's kind of like managing your finances. You can live your finances by living in debt, by using credit cards and overdrafts. and or you can try to save up money and try to live in credit. And that's what I try to do with my energy. I used to live in debt all the time, so I think I feel a tiny bit better. I'm going to go for this. I'm going to do this thing which I couldn't do previously, but I'd end up going into the red energy-wise.
Yeah. And it is really interesting that you used to do that anyway, pre-long COVID.
Did.
I've got lots of pictures of you asleep with when we had very small children, like asleep with them, like both they're having a nap, their normal nap, and then you have a nap with them.
Yes.
Because you did spend a lot of energy. You were very much a go, go, go person.
I was. Yeah, I was very much use it and then run out, recharge. Yeah. Use it, run out, recharge.
Yeah.
So I think, therefore, long COVID has been harder for me than it might be for other people.
Yeah.
Who've been a bit more considered in their use of energy. And it's taken me years to get to this point. So if you're listening and you think, this is not somewhere I'm even considering yet, I get it. I mean, the first 2 times I tried Visible, I clearly wasn't ready for it, and Visible wasn't ready for me. The poor armband was going mental because I was just doing something different every day. I was doing things that I shouldn't be doing, and I'm spending that energy much more carefully. So that is the power of the routine. But I have to say, all that sounds very positive, and it is very positive, but I still lament, in some ways it stifles me personally a bit, because I am still underneath the person that loves just to get on and do stuff and to try something and be spontaneous, and it kind of takes that a little bit of that of me away, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I suppose you were living by your feelings. Like, I feel like doing this today, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah, but it's good. It's fun. I like that.
Yeah, and it is good, and it is a good way to live and fun. But excuse me, being more considered has its merits as well. Like knowing what you're going to do. You can still do fun things. You just have to.
Oh yeah.
Like we've just planned a comedy
about
gig.
A couple of weeks in advance, or this time we booked it a year in advance.
No, we booked a comedy gig in 2024 for 2026.
We did. Yeah. We kept jokingly the other day. Rachel said to me, "Oh, can you remember to do so and so for this comedy gig?" I was like, "Yeah, I think." Probably doubtful, considering it's another year away.
Oh, because I got a carer's ticket for free.
Yeah.
I said you must take your wheelchair because there won't be a seat for you.
No, exactly. It's like, okay, I'll remember that.
2026.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thrust of where I wanted to go with today's topic is, and I haven't decided what I'm going to call this yet, but obviously if you're listening to this, you'll know already. Yeah. But that kind of leads on to, okay, if you're going to have a structure for your week, what is that structure going to be? And mine's happened organically because I've learned more and more as I go along what I can and can't do. It's very homebound. So the thing is, if I pop to the shops, that's a massive burner of energy, enormous burner of energy. So things like I get deliveries to home. I've reignited my love of writing, so I've been writing books and I've been writing articles, and I have a set block when I do that during the day, so I don't kind of spontaneously break into it anytime.
Yeah. What I love about your writing is that it is something you did before, because I guess when you were a vicar, you were writing sermons.
Yeah. You
were writing articles for newspapers, like local leaflets and stuff like that. So it's not something you've suddenly come up with. You have been writing.
Yeah.
It's something you've always loved. And I like the fact you write. I know you've just recently written a novel, but, obviously the long COVID book. But also articles is very much like what you would have been writing, like in a slightly different form, isn't it? So,
yeah, it is.
So it's something, part of your job, part of what you did before, and something you've always loved that you've been able to do.
It is.
And the best thing about it is, obviously, it's like the opposite to being a vicar. A vicar is someone that anyone can ring on the door at any time, sort of thing. You've got to be rushing around to do this and that, and you're often out. You used to have a bike, didn't you? Used to bike between churches when we had 2 churches.
Since our different lifetime now.
Yeah, but you can. Excuse me. But you can live, do that work. You can do the writing work and you can have a set time for it. But it doesn't matter how much you do. Like, it's in your control, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Very much in control.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there's days that I already talked about when things go out the window, someone goes into hospital, something happens. But if you're not in post-exertion malaise already, if you're not burnt out already, those things are copable with.
Yeah.
And you know that you've got to spend this emergency energy, but you're going to need to rest for a few days afterwards.
Yeah.
So these are all kind of rules which you've got in your head, which you learn as you go along, which are vital for your survival of life, that possibly and more likely people won't understand those rules and why you do it. They, as I talked about before, they probably think that you're lazy because you can't handle more than one thing during the day and you need to rest at certain days. But in your head, you know where you're at with these and you've got to stick to them no matter what. Yeah. Even in the face of people saying, oh, you could just pop out down those shops with me. You could just pop out and have that meal with me. What's it going to cost you? And it may not be a physical thing like that. It might be, you can just watch that game with me or whatever. I'll just pop round for a cup of tea. That will cost you as much energy as it would walking down the shops.
So it's all about planning.
It's mental load as well as physical load.
But also it's, like you've spoken to before, like going out with our friends and what you mentioned in the book.
Yes.
That they were understanding, if you do go out with friends, even if it's planned, you have to be able to say, I won't be making it, or I can't come this time.
That is absolutely true.
And also, that again, going back to the writing, that's what I love about it for you, is because at the end of the day, if you are too tired, you don't have to, even though that's in your timetable, that's in your routine, you don't have to do it. You can say, my body says I need to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm going to sleep.
And you have to do it. Like, don't take your cue from anybody else.
Yeah.
I'm serious. That's the biggest things I'm learning is, and have learned is, as somebody who used to slightly live their life being validated by others, you're going to have to learn a different way of living. And it's important.
And the other thing is, like, you've got one thing, which is you do a radio show, and you used to do 3 a week, was it?
Yeah.
And now you just do one
2-hour slot. That's
2 hour slot, because it really is timetabled. Like, you kind of have committed to do that.
Yeah, and I used to fill in. So I used to do different slots every week.
Yeah.
And now I've got one slot at the same time
and
every single week.
Sort of save up that energy for that. And it's on a Monday, so you kind of... But at the end of the day, also, you are able to cancel that, aren't you?
Yeah.
Because it's just...
Because you do shift and change, or I may feel that there's something happening later on today that needs to take priority.
Yeah.
And I can't do both. So it would have to be, I'd have to cancel the radio in that case.
Yeah. So the people that run the radio station are very kind, aren't they, and let you...
They're extremely considerate, considering the upheaval and, the times that I've had to cancel. They've been brilliant.
Yeah.
And again, finding people who understand, or even if they don't understand but trust you enough and to say, if he says he can't do it, he can't do it.
That's exactly right.
That's what you need to do. We're coming to the end of this episode. I want to talk about how there's been changes, Rachel. And I'm glad you're here because I find it hard to describe said changes. But if you're in front of me, I've got to describe it to you. And that helps, actually. So the podcast will be received in all the usual ways. How you're listening to this podcast now is how you'll listen to it in the future. But behind the scenes in the engine room, lots has changed.
That's it.
I've moved the podcast to something called Substack, right? So those listening might not know Substack. You won't notice any difference. The podcast will still be available where it is at the moment in Apple or online or or I was going to say Spotify. But what Substack gives me is actually the facility for you, my listener, to interact with the podcast more should you want to.
Oh, that's good.
So in the show notes where you receive this podcast, you'll see a link and you can go onto my Substack page. And there's two things you can do. You can comment on this week's episode, which I think is brilliant. We can get a conversation going.
Absolutely, yeah.
Tell me your experiences. Tell me what bits you can identify with and which bits you don't. And also, you can also subscribe for extra content on my Substack. And you can pay to receive more, but all of the long COVID stuff is free. So you can receive regular articles based on these podcast episodes in addition to listening to the podcast. And I think that's really good. And of course, if you feel able to, you can pay the monthly subscription just to support the podcast. I think it's something like £5 a month, but you don't have to. And I've always said that. I've always said it's free. I'm doing this to spread awareness, really. So there's that. So after you've listened to this today, head to the notes where you listen to this podcast, click on the link, and you'll come to that page online. It's called My Substack. It's basically on my website where you can comment and browse previous articles. And the other way you can support this podcast is what Rachel's already mentioned, is to buy the book, which was supposed to be Life with Long COVID, the book, and famously now, in an act of foggy brain, I called it Living with Long COVID. I don't know why I did that, and I didn't notice till it was actually published. So I've left it because A, it would mean totally redoing the cover and registering it as a new book on Amazon. But B, it's a glorious show of what a foggy brain can do. And I have to say that it hasn't harmed sales. Sales have been good on Amazon from both American and UK markets. And I want to thank you if you've already bought it.
Definitely.
If you haven't bought it, what are you doing? No, if you want to. But it's designed that you can dip in, dip out whenever you want. And the titles of chapters are the same as the podcast. I think that's it. I've flogged my book. I've told them about commenting, and I'm really excited about this new functionality.
Yeah.
And it's been brilliant. Thank you again for joining me this one, Rachel.
You're very
I feel
welcome.
like the episodes are enhanced by having you on board.
Oh, thank you.
But I would say that because you're my wife as well. But no, they are. And somebody who usually listens, now you can listen to yourself. And
okay,
if you want to. And thank you for downloading, listening. I never take it for granted.
Yeah, please comment and tell us what you think about routines, or if you've used Visible.
Oh, I want to hear from you.
Like
and you know, when I started podcasting, I knew nothing about it. I'd like to think it's getting slightly better as we go along, but with your help, I think it has. I think I've chipped away at it, and we get better every time. It's not finishing anytime soon. I think it's something I really enjoy, and I hope you enjoy listening to it as well. So until next time, you take care, and we'll see each other again soon.